Our group has chosen the topic on the recent global currency war. In this video, my group QE3 will be presenting our research and findings to you. We have chosen question 10, the recent global currency war and its impacts on Singapore. So why did we choose this as our topic? Firstly, Singapore, our home, being a nation with limited resources and is also heavily dependent on the revenue generated by its international trade for citizens' livelihood. Therefore, as a Singaporean, it is vital for us to know more about global issues that concerns our nation. In the case of the currency war, we can be more prepared to face the challenge. Next, the recent currency war is also an economic situation which affects the world trade and exchange rate. If nothing is done, it will probably spiral out of control and overheat the economy, result in the worldwide hyperinflation which will cripple the global economy. And lastly, the recent currency war and its impacts seems to be a challenging question which will enhance our ability to its fullness and help us to gain more economic knowledge regarding the world. Hence, we intend to carry out an in-depth analysis and examination on this situation.
What is a global currency war? The global currency war is a scenario of countries which manipulate their own currencies for self-interest at the expense of others. Although it is not a full-blown trade war as of yet, with tensions rising between the international community, we may anticipate the worst. Our group feels that the US is to be blamed in this currency war. The US has a sluggish economic recovery from the financial crisis, accompanied with high unemployment. Thus, for its self-interest, the Federal Reserve is printing more US dollars to depreciate the greenback and create much-needed jobs. But the depreciation of the US dollar pressurizes other countries' currencies to appreciate against it, hurting their economic recovery and exports in the process. Many countries are forced to intervene in the foreign exchange market to manipulate their own currency to save their own economy. Japan, for instance, intervened in the forex markets to depreciate the yen from its all-time highs. Yet the US casts all the blame on China in this currency war for its yuan policy, which keeps the yuan artificially low. We feel that US has taken double standards, it being able to depreciate its currency while not being able to tolerate other countries doing the same to save their own economies. Why is there a need for countries to devalue their currencies? Countries devalue their currencies to boost export sales. Exports become cheaper to foreign countries, generating more internal demand in foreign countries for foreign goods. Imports from other countries become more highly priced in the process after being hit by the exchange rate. This will encourage domestic consumption of cheaper local goods. Countries will get a competitive edge in international trade and recover faster from the financial crisis. The yuan is estimated to be undervalued by approximately 25%, keeping China's exports artificially competitive. The US devalues its currency not only for solving unemployment and stimulating the economy, but also to reduce its multi-trillion-dollar debt with China. So, you must be wondering, how do some of these countries devalue their currencies? Well, China has adopted the yuan policy, which is an exchange rate policy to keep the yuan value low. It does so by purchasing lots of foreign currency, creating artificial demand for it in the forex market, and simultaneously selling off yuan. As large quantities of yuan enter the forex market, the supply curve of yuan shifts to the right, ceteris paribus. The price of yuan decreases, hence this is how yuan depreciates. The US has adopted quantitative easing, whereby the Federal Reserve prints money to buy US Treasury bonds, create more jobs, and invest in emerging economies with bright prospects. By flooding the foreign exchange with US dollars, the US dollar depreciates.
What are the possible impacts of the recent global currency war on Singapore? 1. Inflation. Due to low interest rates and weak economic growth of developed countries, investors shifted their investments into emerging countries in search of higher yields, driving up their currencies and assets price in the process. As seen in Figure 2, this shifts the demand curve for assets from D0 to D1. The equilibrium price thus adjusts to a higher level from P0 to P1. In Figure 3, continuous increase in investments results in similar increase in aggregate demand as asset bubbles are created. This caused the AD curve to shift from AD0 to AD1. As aggregate supply is unable to increase in the short run to meet the increase in aggregate demand, the general price level hence increases drastically from P0 to P1, resulting in a demand pull inflation. 2. Susceptible economy. As Singapore has a substantial amount of foreign exchange reserves denominated in US dollars, the quantity easing in the US could cause a big problem for Singapore. The devaluation of the US currency reduces the value of Singapore's foreign reserves drastically, forcing our economy into a dangerous situation. As every country needs foreign reserves to help stimulate their economies in time of crisis, with the decreasing foreign reserves, our economy will likely to collapse during financial crisis. 3. Economic setbacks. As the US currency devalues, local consumers are going to cut down on consumption. This demand will then be replaced by Chinese consumers, given the cheaper currency exchange rate. China is currently Singapore's second largest export market, and Singapore, with its higher production costs, will definitely experience a setback in terms of demand, causing its economy to be affected significantly. Appreciation of the Singapore dollar is due to the devaluation of the US dollar, will cost local firms and companies more capital as labor becomes more expensive. This increase in overhead costs makes Singapore less attractive to firms and companies, and might even cause existing local firms to pull out of Singapore, resulting in economic setbacks. 4. Increased investment. With the US dollars depreciating, there's a lot of volatility in the market, and currencies of many countries have been forced to appreciate. Thus, the Central Bank of Singapore has decided to widen and increase the